Hey, everybody, welcome to the Raw Online Report. Today's guest, Larry Pollock, we had on a couple years ago to tell a crazy story from his past about how he was kidnapped and tortured by a drug cartel. Today, we have a whole different story. Larry's going to share with us his experience as a very long time PED steroid user and how he has managed to keep his health in check after nearly 4 decades, 39 years of using anabolics. Welcome, Larry, first of all. Welcome and happy birthday. I just saw on Facebook.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Are you 31 today? 32? What are you?
55 today.
God bless you. So, yeah, I want to, we did that interview a couple of years ago, and it was just, that was the focus of the interview, was that crazy movie story that you had gone through, the experience. But can you please give everyone, I know you have a very extensive background in this industry. Can you give us a real brief recap of, who you are and, what you've done in the industry in these past few decades?
So I'll start from the beginning. I started training when I was 13. I did my first show, which I won when I was 16. And I won the USA when I was 18, took second to Sean Ray in Team America that same year.
Wow.
And I've been competing almost nonstop for about 4 decades. Up until a couple of years ago was my last show.
Yeah. But
still training the entire time. And I used gear on and off, but mostly on pretty much the entire time. I'm not saying I'm condoning people to using it.
100%.
And I'm also not saying that what I do is necessarily going to work for you.
Right.
Everybody has different genetics, different predispositions. I've had some health issues, which I've had to deal with, which I've been able to rectify. And I think I'm not telling people what they should do, but possibly learning about some of the things that I've figured out over the years might put some things in perspective. I know with a lot of the recent deaths coming up, a lot of people are hysterical about, steroids and COVID and vaccines, and, this is all going on. Right. Also, I don't want to get into, I'm not going to talk about, individual people's deaths or why they died. And, I don't care about that. That's not what this is about.
No.
So I'll start right from the beginning. I did my first cycle when I was 16.
Okay.
Getting ready for my first show. And my first cycle, I had a bottle of Cyril Anabar. They were 2 milligram football tablets.
2.5 milligrams, right?
What's that?
Were they 2.5, 2.5, I think?
Maybe they were 2.5.
Yeah, the little, I never, they were legendary. Go ahead. A bottle of
I remember them being 2 milligrams. I think they were actually 2.
Okay.
And I took 3 a day till I ran out of the bottle so that was a total of 33 days, 6 milligrams. That was my very first cycle ever. And I put on a pretty solid, maybe 15 to 20 pounds.
Wow.
And my strength shot through the roof. Sorry about that, my bulldogs.
It's okay. Hey, buddy. Wow.
And so anyways, I got more into competing, and our knowledge gear was somewhat limited back then, compared to now.
Oh yeah.
We had all the gear accessible, but my main thing was Trenbolone when I was a teenager. Once I got past the Anabar cycle, because I don't know, for whatever reason, it was the most popular thing right then. And it wasn't the Trenbolone like you have today. It was Parabolin.
Parabolin, yeah.
And we used to use like 2 ampules a week.
Right.
And
they were like 75 or 76.
75 milligrams,
yeah.
2 ampules. And later on, I met Mike Menser, and he became my roommate, my training partner.
Wow.
For about a year. And our cycle then was 300 milligrams of NPP every other day. Well, actually 3 days a week. So a total of 900 milligrams a week of NPP. And that's all we took.
Deca only. Wow.
NPP. Not even, it was nandrolone phenylpropionate.
Right.
And honestly, I had training in the heavy duty style with him. I got pretty damn big just doing that. I actually got up to about 230 pounds by the time I was 18, 19 years old.
Wow.
And so we didn't run crazy dosages. Even back then, we didn't really know what crazy dosages were. And when at 20, I competed at the Teen America, and literally just a few weeks after that, I got very, very sick. Like immediately. It wasn't an ongoing sickness that I had. I just all of a sudden was sick. Went to the hospital, and I had severe ulcerative colitis. And laid in the hospital for 3 months on TPN, and then had to have emergency surgery to have my entire colon removed.
Wow.
So I almost died right then.
Wow.
So at that point, I kind of thought bodybuilding was over for me.
Yeah.
I just didn't think I could compete, so I kind of gave up on the competing aspect for a few years. But I still trained the entire time. And by the way, I trained in off gear my early 20s, and I wasn't taking anything for that period of time. And I actually maintained my size and strength without anything.
Wow.
After that, I just didn't think I could compete. I don't know why I thought that, but my late 20s, I was actually in John Lloyd's gym, Boston Lloyd's father.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they were getting ready for some Masters Ironman competition. And I was on a stationary bike, and he said, "Hey, fat kid, you want to jump in the show? You think you're going to be ready in 5 weeks?" And he didn't know that I had competed as a teenager. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that got me going. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. So I jumped in the show. I got fifth, just 5 weeks of training. And so I got back into competing again. And I competed pretty much nonstop for about 30 years.
Wow.
Doing, 2 or 3 shows a year. I also got into powerlifting and started doing powerlifting competitions. I did my first powerlifting competition when I was 20, and I won that on nothing. So anyways, it was about mid 90s. I competed in Ironman. That's what the show was called. I think they changed the name now. It was an NPC show.
Right.
But I met an Italian guy backstage, and he was staying in town in LA where I was living, and he came to train with me at Gold's. And he told me that the key was to take 4 to 5 grams of testosterone a week.
Oof.
I never even heard of such a thing. I'd never heard anybody talk about anything like that. But he was pretty jacked. And so I figured, well, I'll try it. And I did. And I tried it for about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I immediately felt like crap. My strength was not going up. And I just realized this is not working for me. I felt sick all the time. And so I went back to, moderate dosages. And
well, define moderate doses, because everyone's got their own parameters of what they consider, reasonable or conservative versus extreme.
So I would say about back in the 90s, I was doing anywhere from maybe 1,500 milligrams, total 2,000 milligrams a week, getting ready for contest. Back then.
Yeah.
I can tell you at my biggest, it was when I was about 40, between 42, 44, I actually got up to 250 pounds. I was on 150 milligrams of Deca a week, 1 Anadrol a day, 50 milligrams, and about 400 milligrams of test. That's all I was taking.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest and strongest I ever got. I took a little bit of GH back then, but I wasn't taking a boatload of drugs. I was just eating a ton of food and, training really hard.
Yeah.
And one thing I can tell you, when I weighed 250 pounds, people told me on the phone I sounded like Darth Vader. Literally. Yeah. Like, I didn't notice it myself.
Yeah.
But I would breathe really heavy because just carrying that weight. And I know 250 pounds is not that big. Some guys get 300, whatever.
Yeah.
But I was 250 lean. I've never been able to put on much body fat.
Hmm.
Like my body fat's about 4% year round.
4%.
Yeah, I've had it tested with hydrostatic, and I've also with the DEXA scans, and it just doesn't go up.
Wow. So what does it get down to
gain weight.
when you compete? What does it get down to?
You know, I can get down to like 3.5.
Good. Oh, so you look pretty much almost competition ready all the time.
I have striated glutes right now, like all year long.
A lot of people hate you right now, Larry, but okay. Go ahead.
It's just, I don't know if it's just my genetics or it's from training so long or just, you know, eating clean.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you is I pretty much eat clean. And I mean, I eat a good amount of food. I eat anywhere between 3,500 and 5,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And I have to force myself to eat that much food because I don't have a huge appetite.
But
But it's all clean food. I don't eat fast food hardly ever. Like maybe like once every 3 months I'll have something out, but I don't really care for it.
Yeah.
So I prepare all my food. It's all clean, healthy. And I do eat a good amount of carbs and healthy fats and proteins and all of that. I take a boatload of supplements. And I'm talking about health supplements, just, you know, curcumin, krill oil, vitamin E, vitamin D, turmeric, all that stuff. I have this 25, 30 bottles of supplements, and I put them in my vitamin packs every day. And I learned this from a guy. I actually did this when I first got Crohn's, and I started trying to figure out. So let me step back a bit. After I had the colitis and they removed my colon, I was totally healthy as far as digestion wise for a long, long time. I could eat anything. I could eat rocks and I could digest it fine. It was no problem.
Yeah.
And then it was 2013. I did 4 shows in 1 year. And then I did a big move where I had to move a gym in 3 weeks. And I honestly believe I gave myself Crohn's.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with steroids. I did it with Adderall.
Wow.
I took Adderall and I stayed awake for 3 weeks straight moving equipment.
Oh my God.
Because I was on a deadline to open this gym and I was working around the clock. I was eating like shit, got dehydrated, and we had the grand opening. And 2 weeks later, I came down with Crohn's. And I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, tell people what Crohn's is, because I'm not even sure.
Crohn's is like colitis, but basically it's so colitis is in your colon and you have basically bleeding ulcers in your colon. Crohn's is a digestive of the small intestine. And it's basically, it can be throughout different parts of your small intestine, but the lining of your intestine gets worn down. And so you're not digesting your food properly. You can't absorb things properly. It just caused all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
And when I first had it, you know, I was crapping blood and just in a lot of pain, and I didn't know what the hell it was. I went to the gastroenterologist finally, and he told me he thought it was Crohn's. And I said, I didn't believe it. I was in denial. I said, I can't have that. He ran some tests. He said, you do have that. So now here I am in a situation where I can't digest my food. I'm losing weight. And even though I'm trying to eat, I'm still losing weight. And I'm trying to figure out how to solve this. And it took me a good year, maybe almost 2 years, to figure out how to solve it and get it in remission. And we tried different medications. They didn't work. And mainly I did it with diet. I had to really figure out, you know, what I couldn't eat. And I did it through a process of elimination. And one thing I can tell you, I do not eat any gluten at all. Gluten sets me off. Yeah. And I didn't know that before, but I know if I eat bread, I will be straight to the shitter, getting blood. Wow. So I just don't eat bread. Right. And it's not a big deal because there's plenty of gluten alternatives. I can get gluten-free pancakes at IHOP.
Yeah.
You know,
gluten-free everything now.
Yeah. So it's not really an issue. I just had to figure that out. I didn't do dairy products for a few years. And about last year, I added in a small amount of non-fat yogurt just for the probiotics, and I digest that fine. I don't have any issues with it.
Yeah.
So really, I had to get real strict on my diet.
Okay.
The other thing I figured out is hydration. Hydration is really a big deal, and people tend to stay dehydrated. And that will cause all kinds of problems. It's going to cause problems with your digestion. It's going to cause problems with your kidneys, everything else. And I think a lot of the health things you're seeing is probably from dehydration.
Wow.
So I make it a point to drink on average about 2 gallons a day. And I'm not talking plain water, because number one, it's hard for me to drink 2 gallons of water because it just doesn't taste that good.
Yeah.
And you don't absorb it that great. So what I do is I actually mix in my water, 1 tablespoon of Himalayan pink salt. I put the essential amino acids, whole scoop, like a 30-gram scoop of, what is it? I just drew a blank. I have it right here. The
Apple cider vinegar or something? No.
no, glutamine.
Glutamine. L-glutamine. Okay. Good.
Yeah, I use 30 grams of glutamine, and because glutamine heals your intestines. It's the main amino acid in muscle tissue as well, and it improves your immune system. So I really do a protein scooper of glutamine in my drink every day. I have this Stan Efferdine cooler, and I fill it with 1.5 gallons, and I mix that all in there. And I finish about 1.5 of those every single day. I put in an emergency pack and 10 grams of creatine monohydrate.
Okay. Well, I have to steer you back to the main topic.
Okay.
So aside from a good chunk of your 20s where you were off everything, you've been on consistently since, say, what year do you think?
From 28 years old till now.
So 28, if you just turned 55, so this would have been like 94, something around 1994, 93, 95, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So it's been about 25 years consistently on gear with no breaks.
Correct.
And you don't, I mean, do you blast and cruise, or have you figured out just a dose, a baseline dose that you stay on that you seem to respond well to, that doesn't cause any health issues?
So let me get into all that.
Yes.
So one thing that I've done that's probably different, well, not probably, is different than most people. I've always gotten blood work done. Like from the beginning, I've always had blood work done. I've always seen the doctor. I've always had my everything checked, and I'm talking every 3 months. I've been doing this from day one. I just always had a doctor that I was working with. And so I was able to monitor everything.
Yeah.
So I figured out a few things for myself. First of all, when it comes to PCT, I believe in PCT. If you're a young guy and you're doing couple cycles a year, that's great. But once you get past a certain point, PCT is not going to do anything. Like if I go off, and I've tried this and taking, Clomid and tamoxifen and HCG, it does nothing for me.
Wow.
Like it does not, my testosterone's not coming back. It's just not going to.
Right.
Once you've been on a certain period of time, it is what it is.
Right.
I've also gone off, like completely off. And every single time I've gone off, like totally, completely off, my blood work is worse. Like, yeah, it gets worse.
Wow.
My liver enzymes go up, my cholesterol gets whacked out, everything gets worse.
That's really strange.
I have a theory behind this, okay? So your body always wants to maintain homeostasis.
Yeah.
And you get used to a certain thing. And your body doesn't like drastic changes. So if your hormone levels are up here, and now they're down here, and now they're up here, and now they're down here, you're messing with your system, and it can't adjust.
Right.
And so I've learned what's best for me is to stay on moderate dosages, and instead of trying to make big giant gains, I just depend on my training for my gains and make slower, consistent gains. But right now it's just maintaining at my age.
Yeah.
But I mean, even still, right now I can squat 600 pounds for a few reps, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I take. I'm not lying. I have no reason to.
Right.
This is exactly what I take, and I'll give you the reasons why I do it. First of all, thyroid. I'm on T4, 175 milligrams, and I've been on it for, I don't know, 20 years. The reason being is when you take gear, it lowers your thyroid. And I have done extensive blood work, and we have figured out that 175 milligrams puts my thyroid, TSH, and everything else at perfect normal levels. And maybe that's why I stay lean. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it does help.
sure.
But 175 milligrams of T4 puts me at perfect levels
That's daily?
daily.
Okay,
I've been doing that for like 20 years.
okay.
And this is with, we did a lot of blood work to get to this, to figure out, what was the right amount for me.
Yeah.
Now that might be different for somebody else. They might need less, more, depends, maybe none.
None, yeah.
But if you take gear, your thyroid's going to slow down. And I don't take T3 ever. And I don't even believe in T3 for contest prep because T3 eats muscle tissue. If you take T4, your body will convert the amount of T4 that you need to active T3 in the amount that you need it. And everything in my blood work's always tested perfect on my thyroid with that level. So that's one thing. Growth hormone, I've tried and I've experimented with various dosages. And because of my Crohn's, I have a really good monitor of what it does to me. Because of my blood sugar raises, it causes flare-ups. So what I figured out is I do 2.5 units 4 days a week, only on training days in the middle of the night on an empty stomach with no carbs. If I go higher than that, I get flare-ups, which means I get irritated. I start going to the restroom. My food's not digesting well.
Right.
2.5 is just perfect on it helps my digestion. The other thing I use is Lantus, 15 units in the morning. And the reason I do that is because of my Crohn's, I tend to eat carbs and it just they'll go right through me. That keeps my blood sugar even, and I digest my food better.
Yeah, I just have to say that's the insulin because not everyone's gonna know what Lantus is.
Oh yeah, it's a 24-hour insulin. And by the way, I'm going to tell you, there's people out there promoting taking 100 units of Lantus and stuff like this, and I think that's just nuts. I mean, maybe you're going to gain a bunch of weight, but I mean, you're risking hypoglycemia and God knows what else. But 15 units is just enough to keep my blood, and I tested my blood sugar a lot, especially when I was figuring this all out, and that keeps my blood sugar perfect levels throughout the day and in the morning, fasted. I'm right at about 100 in the morning, and I don't have any blood sugar issues. And I do have to eat a lot of carbs because just my metabolism is so fast, I just can't. And also with the Crohn's, I don't digest food well if I don't eat carbs, complex carbs with it. If I eat straight protein, it just goes right through me.
Wow. Okay.
So I have to eat, rice, sweet potatoes, stuff like this.
Even like fatty protein goes right through you?
So if I put, I have this shake that I have at night, which is I make with coconut milk, casein, and beef gelatin, and some hydrolyzed peptides. And I put a small amount of avocado in it, and I just mix it up in a NutriBullet. And lately I've been putting a little bit of turmeric and some ginger in there because it's supposed to be good for your liver.
Yeah.
And I have that shake almost every night in the middle of the night.
Okay.
And what I've learned for myself is anything fast digesting messes my digestion up. So I cannot do whey isolate at all, but I'm good with casein. Okay. I don't do a lot of beef, but if I do beef, I eat it cold. For whatever reason, if I eat it cold, I digest slower and I don't have a problem. If I eat hot right off the skillet, straight to the restroom.
Wow, that's very interesting.
So,
okay.
Everything that I try to do is I try to slow my digestion down to keep things. I digest my food better, and I'm not running the restroom all day long.
Yeah. So far we've got T4, insulin, and the growth hormone.
Right. So let me get into the gear.
Yeah.
So the gear I run, I'll tell you exactly what I take. And, you know, I've kind of experimented with different dosages and stuff. Weekly, I run 200 milligrams of test sip, 150 milligrams of DECA, nandrolone, decanoate, 150 milligrams of EQ. Okay, that's on the long acting. One shot a week. That's it.
Oh, wow.
Now, pre-workout, this is my pre-workout regimen, is 50 milligrams MPP, 50 milligrams test pro, 25 milligrams proviron, 20 milligrams of Anavar, and 25 milligrams of Turnabol. And I do that 4 days a week, only training days, 1 hour before training. And I'll tell you my theory behind this. I honestly believe that, you know, your body can only use a certain amount of hormones, just like you can use a certain amount of food.
Yeah.
And if you do it around your training with the fast acting stuff, you'll actually use that stuff up in training. So rather than it being floating around in you, waiting to aromatize and whatnot, you know, you use it up. You actually burn it up if you train hard enough, long enough. And my training sessions are usually a couple hours, very intense, you know, heavyweight.
Yeah.
And I burn that stuff up in the training session. Now I will tell you, last year, my hematocrit was running about 53,
So just,
which
just
my-
over average.
which is a little bit high. And my, not my gastro, but my endocrinologist was a little concerned. My hematocrit, my recent test was 49.5.
Okay.
There's only one thing I did different. I lowered my testosterone. Yeah, I lowered my amount. I was on 400 milligrams of test a week. I lowered it to 2. But not talking about the propionate.
Right.
So my total dosage of tests a week is 400 milligrams because it's 50 milligrams 4 times plus 200 milligrams of SIP.
Right.
I tried using anti-estrogens before, then I found out it's bad for your lipids. What I use to control estrogen is Proviron. And the reason I do that, it doesn't crash my lipids. My lipids stay between 40 and 70, which is where you want them to be. I mean, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. My estrogen stays between 40 and 70 on my blood work, which is not going too high. And it's also not going too low. You don't want to crash it and you don't want it too high. And I think it's a safer way to go. Just a little bit of Proviron, 25 milligrams, 4 days a week. I figured out that dosage keeps my estrogen, again, based on my blood work, between 40 and 70, which is where I want it to be.
Right. So your blood work looks really good. Now I need to get into what's killing so many people, not just bodybuilders. Number 1 cause of death in the United States is heart disease. People die.
So I just had an EKG.
Yeah.
And the reason I had an EKG is because I went in for a procedure and they did EKG. My resting heart rate is 50. They said my what is it? Blood pressure is that of a 19-year-old. I honestly believe, based on my experience, that if you just are too big, you're going to put stress on your heart, whether it's muscle or fat. If you weigh 300 pounds, it's just a lot of blood that has to be pumped through you. So I'm going to get into something that's going to be sort of controversial, which I don't really care because some people are anti-vax, whatever. I had COVID last year, January 2020. I believe it was January 2020. I got COVID. I never lost my sense of taste or smell. I never got a fever. I felt lethargic, tired for about 2 weeks. I stayed home, of course, because I had it. I continued to test positive for a month. I don't know why. It just, I guess it just lingers in you. But I never got really sick. I do, like I say, quercetin and, you know, all the antioxidants and stuff like that. So maybe that helped.
Yeah.
I've also gotten both my vaccines. I got a sore shoulder for about an hour after each time. That was it. Didn't get sick. Haven't been sick from it. But I think, you know, possibly part of what is going on is you have people that are just really hot. We know that COVID combined with high body weight and insulin resistance and diabetes they've already determined that those are the people that are dying the most.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're a bodybuilder and you're 300 pounds, and I'm not going to throw names out there, but you're 300 pounds, and I don't care if it's muscle or fat, but how many people are 300 pounds of muscle? Like I know two guys, Ramy and maybe Ronnie Coleman.
Yeah.
For 300 pounds, you can't be all muscle. Most
True.
people.
Right.
So you're putting a strain on your heart. Now, if you happen to get sick and it's COVID or whatever it is, you're going to be more susceptible to having something happen.
Sure.
It's just that way.
Hmm.
I can tell you, I have training clients. I have a kid getting ready for nationals. I cut his gear in 1/3 of what he was taking. When he came to me, he was on a boatload of gear. I cut it into 1/3. He was all broken out, big cystic acne. And I mean, he was strong and everything. Since I've cut his gear down, the guy's in amazing shape. He's gotten stronger. We've gained more muscle. He's lean as hell. You're going to see him at nationals in a few weeks. He just won his pro qualifier, took the overall and everything.
Nice.
Great. But let me tell you something, and he'll tell you this himself. I've known him for a number of years. Getting him to do blood work was like pulling teeth in the beginning. I had to harass him to get blood work. Getting him to get a DEXA scan to get his body fat done in the beginning was, now that he's seen the results and he sees we're making good progress on minimal gear and he's healthy, he's doing it. But these young guys, they don't want to get their blood checked.
No.
I don't really understand why, but I think the main reason is they figure shit's fucked up and they don't want to know.
100%. That is the reason. I can.
Yeah, they don't want to know.
Yeah. It's not just a young guy's problem. I know guys in their 40s and 50s. They don't go to the doctor. They don't get their blood work done because they'd rather not know.
Yeah, they just figure it's going to be messed up because they're taking all this stuff and they don't want to know. But the problem is, if you don't know, you can't do anything about it.
Well, I think another fear is they see everything's messed up and they're going to have to go reduce their doses and maybe lose some muscle, and they don't want to do that. So anything that's
and again, this goes, I'm going to tell you something. I've done this myself. I've done this experiment a bunch of times. I've tried raising my dosages just even by a couple, 200-300 milligrams. Nothing better happened. I didn't get stronger. I didn't get bigger. Nothing better happened from it. As a matter of fact, there's been a couple times where I raised my dosages and I actually got weaker.
Wow.
My training got worse and I got weaker, like literally within a couple of weeks. And then when I backed off the dosages, my digestion got better and I got stronger again. An unhealthy machine is not going to function right.
True. Yeah.
So if you're taking a bunch of gear and you're stressing out your organs and you're stressing your digestion and everything's stressed out and you can't sleep because you're too wired up, you're just not going to function right. Okay, another thing I want to bring up. In the first probably 20 years of my training, I was big into the pre-workout supplements. I'm talking about, every kind of, we started with the Gasperi, what was the
Super Pump? Well, I remember Ultimate Orange. I don't know if you go back that. You remember Ultimate Orange.
No, the one I liked was Gasperi. He came out with that pre-workout, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But we got into the stuff that were actually putting amphetamines in the pre-workout. And I mean, I used that stuff and I trained like crazy on it. And then when I got Crohn's, I figured out, stimulants mess you up. And I mean, they mess your digestion up. They mess up everything. My pre-workout, and this is no bullshit, is 200 milligrams of caffeine. And
one cup of coffee, basically.
Of Yohimbe. That's all I take. And I don't take I don't drink coffee and I don't take any stimulants at any other time throughout the week. Because I don't take any other stimulants throughout the week, no, I kid you not, when I take that 200 milligrams of caffeine, I am wired, like I'm like this.
Yeah.
In the middle of training.
Wow.
Because my body is super sensitive to caffeine now because I don't use it. Or I could take 2 scoops of pre-workout and barely be awake. And I think it's the same with the gear. If you take too much, your body, like anything else, you're going to build a tolerance to it. Now you're just going to have a bunch of junk floating around in your system that's not doing any good. It's not making you any gains. You're not going to get stronger from it. You're going to start aromatizing. Now you got to take a bunch of anti-estrogens to try to control the estrogen and the progesterone. I've never had gyno, by the way, in my life. Never even a sign of it. Never been an issue.
Yeah.
And this is even before we had anti-estrogens, because I just never went crazy, except for that one time. I never went crazy high on the gear.
So I have to ask about cardio because a lot of bodybuilders avoid cardio unless they're in prep or something. You know, we've been hearing a lot because now people are starting to talk more about the heart health. I don't know how many of them are actually taking any action toward making sure they're doing cardio or anything, but have you always done cardio? That would seem like it's something that's integral if you're trying to be remotely healthy while you're on gear for years and years.
So I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I don't ever do any cardio. My cardio consists of walking my dog on the beach in the morning. And the reason I have done it and I'm not against it. And I believe it's important for some people. My only reason for not doing it is because I lose weight so fast. I literally, like before a show, I was taking a 20-minute walk on the beach and I lost 10 pounds in 1 week.
Wow.
My metabolism is just insanely fast and I just drop weight too quickly. However, that being said, the way I train, I believe I'm getting enough cardio.
Okay.
I train with really heavy weights with a fairly quick pace for 2 to 2.5 hours each time, 4 days a week. So I believe especially when I'm training legs, back, something like that, my cardio is getting done. My girlfriend, who's getting ready for nationals right now, is doing 2 hours of cardio a day on top of training.
Of course.
He has to. My guy who I'm getting ready for nationals, he's doing 2 hours of cardio a day on top of training. They have the opposite problem of me. They have really slow metabolisms, which is kind of a good thing in a way because they don't lose any muscle. Like they can do cardio and starve to death. I can literally starve this kid to death and he doesn't lose any muscle.
Wow.
And you know, he can do 2 hours of cardio, train 2 hours. And I got his calories down to 3,000 for a 230-pound, pretty big guy. That's not a lot on zero carbs. And he doesn't lose a bit of muscle. If I did that, I would disappear. Like I would really like drop 20 pounds in a week.
Like I meant to ask you that too, because, you know, we talked about carrying too much muscle is not that different. It's still stressing the body in a similar way to an obese person. What's your height and weight? Because I'm sure technically, just like me, you're overweight.
So yeah, my medical says I'm obese. At 5'7", I'm 220.
Yeah, we're exactly the same. I'm a half inch taller, but that's about 40. I want to say that's like 40 pounds overweight according to their charts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm obese at 4% body fat.
Exactly. But, you know, I want to ask you, do you feel that you carrying all that mass is an extra risk factor? Do you think you'd be healthier if you dropped, say, 20 pounds of muscle or more?
So the truth answer to that question is, I don't know. But I will tell you like this. My blood work shows that everything's good. My EKGs show everything's good. My ultrasounds of my liver and everything else shows that everything is good.
Yeah.
And I've been carrying this weight, this 220 pounds for, at least 10 years now. Yeah. I was bigger before. When I was 250 pounds, I had a hard time breathing. Now, I will tell you this, I use a CPAP. Okay. And I knew I needed it when I was 250 pounds because, like I said, I was breathing like Darth Vader. Yeah. People would tell me on the phone I sounded like Darth Vader over the phone. And I would be tired all the time. I would be falling asleep at the wheel. Yeah. And I finally talked the doctors into getting me a sleep study about maybe 8 years ago. And I got my CPAP and all that went away. And I won't go anywhere without it. I use it every night. And anybody, I think if you're over 200 pounds and you have bigger than a 15-inch neck, you need a CPAP.
So in the sleep study, because I don't think everyone here is familiar with sleep apnea, you actually, your airway closes and you wake up, you stop breathing. Like they'll tell you in your sleep study, you stop breathing like 100 or 200 or 300 times. It's really frightening. How
I was stopped breathing like every 15 seconds.
Wow.
So I was never really sleeping.
Yeah, you were like,
I was waking up all night. And, I had, my ex-wife told me she thought I was going to die in my sleep because I'd wake up choking.
yeah. I mean,
And
you could have died.
But when they did the sleep study, I was literally waking up like 4 times a minute. I was never getting a deep into REM sleep or the deep sleep because I was up. And so I was always tired all day long. I'm tired. I was walking around tired.
Yeah.
And I got my sleep study and got my CPAP. All that went away literally overnight.
Yeah.
I sleep like a baby, 8 hours. I mean, I do get up to go to the restroom.
Yeah.
But I sleep great.
Yeah.
And I've told young guys, that I can tell they need it because they're big. They have big necks. A lot of it has to do with the size of your neck. Your neck will choke you, stops you from breathing.
Right.
But just being a large body weight, whether it's fat or muscle, you have to pump a lot of blood through there.
Yeah.
And that all it does is it pushes fresh air into your lungs to keep your air passages open so you can breathe properly.
Yeah. I mean, I think I ended up losing weight just so I wouldn't have to use one. I still think I have a touch of sleep apnea, but when I was 240, 245, I'm sure I was waking up many, many times.
Ron, get the CPAP. I don't know why people don't want to have it. It's not, they're like, it's going to be uncomfortable on my face. It's nothing.
No.
You just stick it on and you don't even know it. It's like pulling your underwear up. It's not an issue.
Yeah.
It's not uncomfortable. I just stick it on.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
I get up to go to the restroom, I pop it off, I put it right back on. It's not a big deal.
well, I think, someone who can lose, I was able to lose the weight because it doesn't matter if I'm 100 pounds or 500 pounds, it just doesn't really matter for my job. But these guys you're dealing with, they don't want to lose weight. They're trying to, most of them are, especially younger guys, they're still trying to get bigger and heavier as possible. So yeah. And of course that's exactly why I didn't want it. I don't want something on my face all night. Obviously I never gave it a chance. And everyone I've talked to, maybe one or two people out of the many dozens I've talked to say, you should just go ahead and do it. It's fine. You get used to it pretty quick. A couple of people I've talked to said they didn't like it and they stopped, but the vast majority of people said I should have done it sooner. I wish I'd done it sooner.
I wish I got it when I was young. And I won't go anywhere without it. It's small, it's portable. I can take it wherever I want. It's got a little carrying case, plug it in, stick it on, go to sleep.
Yeah.
I literally put that thing on, lay down, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And I sleep great. And I wake up feeling great. It's once you use one, you're going to be like, why did I not do this?
Right.
Why just the not being tired all day.
Right.
I used to literally be scared to drive on long distance drives because I thought I was going to die in a car crash.
It happens all the time.
Constantly like this.
Happens every day.
Falling asleep at the wheel. I don't have that anymore. I sleep great, wake up refreshed, feel good, and it's proven it'll put 10 to 15 years on your life.
Wow. Well,
in scientific medical studies. So why wouldn't you do it?
Well, I've never heard that. That's a very compelling reason right there.
10 to 15 years will add to your life, just putting on a CPAP.
Because I think bodybuilding in general with gear takes 10 or 15 years off your life.
Yeah. And this will put 10 to 15 years on your life. So there you go.
Evens the score.
Fixed a whole bunch of problems right there.
So I do suspect, Larry, because we have a lot of things in common. I've used gear, I don't want to say on and off, because I started late 1996, used it all through 97, took off, with the exception of about a year. There's only been about a total of 5 years since late 1996, not even, that I've been on gear. So I'm very, very fortunate. I think it's a genetic component that your body is a little resistant to it, or it doesn't respond the same way as other people. In any case, I think we've both been very lucky, which is why I don't recommend anyone. And you have a lot more recommendations as far as things you've done to try to manage your health and be as healthy as possible. Because I do want to stress to everyone listening, we're not saying long-term steroid use is healthy. It is not. But there are safer ways to do it. There's no safe way to use steroids in the long term. beyond a TRT dose. We're not talking about TRT here. We're using about, a 220 to 250 pound person needs a certain amount of gear to maintain that amount of muscle tissue. But, I do want you to share, just wrap up one last time, the things that you think you have learned that others could apply to themselves and their own lifestyle, things that you've done that have saved your health or are keeping you healthier than you probably would have been otherwise.
I want to elaborate on that. In no way am I saying gear is healthy for you.
Mm.
However, they do use it in burn patients, in AIDS patients, in all kinds of people with wasting situations.
Yeah.
After surgeries to help you heal better. And I'm going to say this, and I mean it. If you train really hard and intense, I think you need something to help you recover. Because I know if I trained the way I do now for 40 years on nothing, my body would be torn apart. And I've had my share of injuries. I wouldn't be able to do this. There's just no way I could recover.
Right.
I know that for fact. So, which is worse, having like all your ligaments and tendons torn out, blown rotator cuffs, and all this other stuff, blown knees, blown back, blown everything, or, manage your gear. So it has some health benefits in that it's going to keep you going if you're going to train like this. Now, you don't have to train. Training like this may not be healthy either, but we have lifestyle choices we make. Some people party and drink alcohol. They do recreational drugs. I bodybuild. That's what we do. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do rec drugs. I don't go to bars. I go to the gym and I train. That's my thing.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do that, and there's a thing, well, maybe it's going to be healthier if you were 180 pounds and you didn't train and you just did some cardio. But I don't want to live like that. I'm a bodybuilder. I've been a bodybuilder since I was 13 years old. I'm not going to quit being a bodybuilder, whether it's competing or not. I want to go to the gym and train. And I'm going to train like this until the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, I want to do it and try not to rip my body to pieces. And like I said, I've blown a rotator cuff. I've torn a tricep tendon. I've torn both my lats. I've had various injuries. And I've managed to recover from all that and still be able to train hard and with heavy weights. And there's no way I could do that on a TRT dose of testosterone. Just wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Again, I'm not telling people to do this, what I do, but this is what I figured out works for me. And given my blood work and everything, I've managed to be able to manage it. Now, and again, I'm not going super crazy. My total dosages for the week is what? Like 800 mgs,
Like that.
I think, total.
200. It was 200 from the sip, 200 sip, right? Another 200 from the propionate. So that's 400 test. It was 300 combined with the NPP and the equipoise, right?
The deck and the equipoise is 300. So that's 700.
We're up to 700.
And then 200 milligrams of NPP. So that's 900. And then we have 20 milligrams of Anavar. So that's 80. So I'm right around 1,000 mgs.
Yeah, I mean, that's a substantial, obviously that's far beyond what we would consider TRT. So,
right.
Yeah, someone would say there's no way anyone could sustain that for years and years without many, many adverse health reactions.
Well, they're wrong because I'm living proof. I'm sitting here and I got the blood work to prove it. So
you've managed to mitigate that. So what do you attribute? Obviously, genetics they definitely play a role here, but what else do you attribute it to? That
I honestly think diet is such a huge factor.
Okay, eating clean.
I eat super clean, and I'm not saying I don't eat carbs and I don't eat fats, and I'm not on a keto diet, and I'm not, but I eat very healthy. I don't eat out. I don't eat fast food. I don't like it. I don't like the way it tastes. It doesn't digest well for me. I don't eat any gluten. I take my supplements. I take my minerals, my vitamins, all the things that to mitigate these things, to keep my blood sugar right. Yeah. All these things matter. And it's complicated. I mean, it isn't complicated for me now because I've been doing it for so many years, but when I had to figure it out, I had to do a lot of experimentation with, what foods I could eat, what affected me. And because of my Crohn's, I had to learn to do this.
Yeah.
So it forced me to eat healthy. You know, I can't go to In-N-Out Burger. It'll just send me straight to the toilet for 2 days, and it's not worth it to me.
Yeah, it goes in and out of you. But as far as, do you eat certain fruits like blueberries or pomegranate, things that have?
I eat every morning is the same. I eat 1 cup of cream of rice mixed with 10 egg whites, 3 whole eggs, 1 banana, 1 cup of blueberries, 1 cup of raspberries. And then I mix in there some cinnamon and some hydrolyzed peptides and some beef gelatin. And yeah, I eat that every day.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my breakfast. Actually, that's 2 meals. It's a huge bowl. It's my breakfast and my post-workout. I eat that and then I go train, and then post-workout, I eat the other half of it.
That sounds very efficient. I should do that.
And then dinner is usually chicken, salmon, or steak. And more often than not, it's salmon or chicken, and rice and sweet potatoes.
Cool.
That's pretty much what I eat, in vegetables.
Okay.
And I season all my food. I make it taste good. It doesn't taste like crap. You know, I'm not eating like lettuce and dried out tuna fish in a can. I've done that business. It doesn't taste bad. You know, I know how to cook.
Right.
But I think diet really is huge. People don't realize, you know, what you put in is what your body has to work with.
Yeah. Well, you know, you made that reference a little while ago about a well-running machine. And I think a lot of bodybuilders sort of, they don't address that. They don't realize that your overall health is going to play such a big part in the gains you make, the way you look. It's not just enough to train hard and take the right drugs. Yeah, I mean, people really need to be as healthy as possible if you want to get the best results.
I'm going to tell you like this. At 55 years old, I can out-train every young guy in my gym, including the kid that I'm training for right now for nationals. I can work his ass into the ground. He's stronger than me.
Yeah.
Like on certain movements, he can lift more weight. But endurance-wise in the gym, I can out-train him. I can train almost anybody into the ground. At 55, I can go.
That's pretty
Very
amazing.
fast with very heavy weight between sets.
Yeah.
Very few people can keep up with me through a leg workout. I've had pro bodybuilders many times go puke in the middle of a leg workout.
Nice.
I'm just laughing. They're 25, 30 years old, and they're out there puking.
Right.
And I can just push through it. Part of that is because I'm so used to doing it, because I've been doing it so long.
Yeah.
But, you know, my body runs efficiently. So, you know, I don't have a lot of I don't have extra body fat on me. I don't have clogged up arteries, and I don't have a bunch of heart conditions that I'm dealing with. So I have endurance.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I do think there are some lessons to be learned here. Certainly, even though you are a genetic marvel, I think in many aspects, as far as the way your body, because
I will say there's definitely some genetics to this. And because my brother, he's an endurance athlete, and he was a world champion kickboxer. He was a world champion kettlebell champion, and now he's a professional paddleboarder.
wow.
And he's like an endurance freak. You can he's a pro. And
Is he older than you?
he's 3 years younger than me.
Wow. Still in his 50s doing all that. My goodness.
Yeah, he just won world championships in paddleboarding. But that's his thing. And he lifts weights, but not like I do.
Right.
No. He's never taken gear in his life.
God bless.
And he eats healthy as well.
Yeah.
But so there's definitely some genetics there, because, you know, I think we're just built to do a lot of work.
Yeah. So I guess if we could, in a nutshell, use the least amount of gear as possible to get good results, eat as clean as you possibly can. Yeah. Be consistent like you have with your training for 40 years. Some of these guys, they stop for months at a time and then come back all fat, and it's like starting all over again.
Yeah, my training is like down to a science. I train 4 days a week, each body part trained once a week. I know exactly what I need to recover from it between workouts. I know how many days I need off to recover. I've figured this out.
Yeah.
There's no guessing.
Okay, cool.
And I mean, I've tried different programs, training more, training less. This is like the perfect amount of training to allow me to continue to maintain my strength and actually even get a little bit stronger and maintain my muscle mass without getting injured. And like I said, I've had my share of injuries over the years. I've been doing this for you're not going to do this for 40 years and not get some kind of injuries. It's just not going to happen. But
No.
for the amount of training I've done and the amount of weight I've moved in my life, I'm still better than I think most people injury wise. I can still push heavy weight.
Yeah, I mean, that's 600. We've talked on, you've commented on Facebook, and it's, because I can't squat heavy at all anymore. I can't squat. It's pathetic compared to what I used to do. And, to see someone that's older than me that's still putting 6 plates on each side on a squat.
Now,
bar.
I will tell you this, I get deep tissue work every single week. Serious hardcore deep tissue work. I have a lady comes in 2 hours, she works on me.
Jeez.
Breaks up all my scar tissue and adhesions, stretches me, does all this stuff. And before every workout, I spend no less than 30 to 40 minutes stretching, and I use a massage gun and I dig on my lower back, my everything, that anywhere that's tight. And I do that religiously before I ever pick up a weight. I literally lay on a mat and do calisthenics and stretch and just dig on myself with this massage gun. I use capsaicin before I train on my elbows, my shoulders, my bicep tendon, my lower back, and my knees. So everything's real hot.
Yeah.
And when things are hot, they're pliable and less likely to break.
Sure.
These are just some little tips.
Yeah.
Because, once you get injury, you're sidelined. You can't train.
I know. God, do I know. So Larry, thank you so much. I know people are going to have questions for you. When this video comes out, if you don't mind looking at the questions in the comments, and if it's not,
No,
good,
I'll answer anything anybody wants.
if you don't have to write a novel back to them,
Right.
But, I think people would appreciate that, because you're doing what a lot of people say just can't be done. They say that's ridiculous. You can't be on gear that long, or you'd be.
I'm going to tell you like this. I'm really hard-headed, stubborn. It's just in my nature. I think it's my genetics.
Yeah.
And there's been so many times people told me you can't, and it's like, yeah, I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'll figure out a way. I've gotten injured, and I've had doctors I tore my cruciate tendons when I was a kid. They told me you will walk, but you will never run and you'll never lift weights again.
Oh my God.
6 months later, I was squatting 600 pounds for reps.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me I can't do something. Yeah, I'll figure out a way. It may not be easy. I may have to work around it, find a different way, find a different technique, change some things, but I'll find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And that's always been my attitude. Maybe I'm 55, but I'm not ready to give up. I'm not ready to die and just become an old man and sit in a wheelchair. I'm not going to become a, 160-pound guy walking on the treadmill.
Yeah.
It's just not me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you get it all the time. I hear people in my DMs and everything are saying, Ron, you should lose weight. You should downsize. It's not healthy to be so big. And, I don't want to be 170 pounds doing Pilates and yoga and riding a bike all up. It's just not, when you're a bodybuilder, you're a bodybuilder. And if you can keep your health and manage your health, who are they to tell you can't be a bodybuilder anymore? And you shouldn't carry this much size. If you're healthy and you're really being diligent about that, the way you are, the way I am with blood work, with the various heart scans, there's no reason we have to listen to these people who tell us, stop.
Well, there's a reason they tell you that.
I know.
There's lots of reasons. Number one, they're jealous. Number two, they don't want to put in the work. This is not easy.
No.
Doing food prep is not easy. Eating this much food every day is not easy. Training like I do, even though I love it, it's not easy.
No.
Most people don't want to do that. They don't want to put in that work.
No.
Very few people want to go through a workout with me and do it again.
Yeah.
But this is what I do.
And just to put it out there, it's a lot more challenging to train at that level when you have all these injuries that have accumulated over the years, because you do have pain, you do have limitations, and it's not as fun as, you're still able to do a lot of things, but there's a lot of things I can't do anymore. Exercises I just can't do.
Hey, you know what? I used to be a really heavy deadlifter. I deadlift, but I don't go crazy heavy anymore because it's strain on my lower back. It's just my lower back gets like this.
Yeah.
So
right there with you.
I deadlift, but I don't try to max out. I don't go crazy heavy. And I do it every other week. I don't deadlift every week. A lot of times I'll do chest supported rows, various different back exercises that I'm not straining my lower back, because that for me has been an issue. And it's not like I have like lower back injuries per se, but just it gets tight. And that's why I have to do so much stretching. I dig on my back with a massage gun for 15, 20 minutes before I start a workout, just to loosen it up.
Should do that.
So I've just figured out things that I can do. And yeah, you have to work around these things. You know, I blew a rotator cuff 4 or 5 years ago on the bench press. I can't flat bench heavy anymore. So I use machines.
Yeah.
I can flat bench, but I can't do it heavy. But I can go on some of these flex press machines, and I can go full intensity, drop sets, everything, and it doesn't hurt my shoulder as long as I have the right positioning. You know, and I've also recovered my shoulder because I just let it heal, and I did a lot of work on it. You know, so you can overcome a lot of these injuries. I tore both my soleuses on a leg press with 1,700 pounds about 6 years ago.
Oh, God.
It was bad, really bad. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. I was in a wheelchair. It was horrendous. The pain was unbelievable.
Yeah.
After that, I should never leg press again in my life. It took me 1 full year to rehab all that. I can do heavy calf raises again. I can do heavy leg presses again, but I had to do a lot of work in rehab.
Right.
I did most of the rehab myself. Physical therapy couldn't do much for me. So I had to just work on it. I did a ton of stretching, a lot of deep tissue work. You know, I used some BPC 157, TB 500 in my injuries when it happened, and that helped.
Yeah.
And they're good. And I can train legs heavy, and I have no pain. After that injury, I think most people would have quit.
Absolutely. How many people do you talk to and say, I used to look like you, but then I hurt this or I hurt that? I'm like, sure you did.
Okay, I've blown this rotator cuff, torn this tricep tendon, torn both lats, blown my L45L disc twice, torn both cruciate tendons in my knees, tore both my soleuses, tore my abductors 3 or 4 times. I don't know, what else have I done?
It's hard to remember, isn't it?
I put it all back together.
Yeah.
And I'm still able to train hard.
Cool. Yeah. Larry,
I wasn't ready to quit.
I'm going to wrap it up, Larry. It's been a very eye-opening conversation. Appreciate you taking the time, and that it's fascinating. Like I said, I don't know if everything's applicable to everyone watching this, but a lot of things that you do, and that you've been doing to keep this longevity, there are things people should really listen to and apply if you can.
And I want to emphasize one thing. Never stop learning. I'm still trying to learn. I just talked to Dante Trudell the other day, and he gave me some new supplements to try. And I've been researching them, and I'm going to try them. You know, they're health supplements. Never stop learning. Never stop trying to figure out better ways to do things.
Yeah.
There's always better ways. If I knew now if I knew 4 years ago what I knew now, I could have avoided a certain amount of injuries. I could have done, more things.
Yeah.
Now, at least I can help other people. And my purpose on coming on here is not to talk about myself. I'm hoping some of this information can help other people. So, if you're dealing with health issues, if you're dealing with injuries, if you're dealing with whatever, figure out ways to get around it. Go see the doctor, get your blood work done, look at your nutrition, eat clean, look at your training, figure out what's working, what's not working. If something hurts, don't do it. Find another exercise. I cured my shoulder with a Viking press.
Yeah.
That was an exercise I'd never heard of. I couldn't shoulder press after I tore my rotator cuff with anything. I couldn't overhead press at all. I learned about the Viking press. I pushed forward. My shoulders came back. Didn't hurt my rotator cuff. New exercise. Strength came back. Just I had to experiment with different things. So just keep trying to push forward, keep learning. And if you have the willpower and the dedication, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
And don't be stupid. And I mean by be stupid, it's you don't have to take 10 grams of gear. I know a professional powerlifter that I trained with for 10 years. He is in very bad health. He did break world records. He took this is no bullshit. I'm not going to say his name, but he knows 12 grams of gear in 1 week before he broke a world record.
Wow.
But that wasn't what, I don't think that was what did it. What did it is he kept taking like a shit ton of gear for years and years and years and being 330 pounds.
Yeah.
He's younger than I am.
Hmm.
And now I don't think he's got much time left on this earth,
That's terrible. That's,
you know?
yeah.
So
terrible to hear.
be smart about it.
Okay.
You know, if your blood work's messed up, lower your dosages.
Yeah.
Figure out a better way. Like I said, my hematocrit was a little high. I dropped my test. My hematocrit dropped.
Yeah.
So there it is.
There it is. All right, guys, I want you all to please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, make sure your notifications are set to always so you know when we put out content like this great one today. Larry Pollock, I want to thank you once again for coming on, sharing all this with everyone. I do think it's going to help some people, so appreciate it very much. Even if it helps just a few people, those are lives that are going to be changed and maybe even be extended following some
You know, if that maybe just help people train better and be healthier.
yeah,
That's all, you know, that's all that matters. You know, live a better life.
absolutely. All right.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching Ron Line Report with Larry Pollock. We'll see you next time.